It's 5 minutes with me.
Hey, friends, welcome to 5 Minutes with Marko. I heard a story and a comment some time ago that got me thinking a handful of random thoughts. First, the true story. A 12-year-old seventh grade kid and his parents sat in the office of a youth worker. The parents were agitated. The kid was in tears. He had once again gotten in trouble at his private school. It wasn't for big things. He'd gotten in trouble for little things like daydreaming. In fact, the kid seemed to have that 12-year-old boy personality that is, to be honest, annoying but common. He was distracted and not fully present. You know, the kid who hears a list of important instructions and then simply asks, "What?" Well, he'd done something a bit more serious this time. Not serious by public school standards, but apparently more serious by this private school standards. He'd called the teacher, the one who seemed to have it in for him and was always sending him to the principal's office. He'd called her a bitch. He didn't call her that to his face or even say it out loud. He wrote it on a note that got intercepted. Now the teacher was demanding the boy be expelled from the school. And here's where the story gets interesting. The kid seemed to have a genuine regret about what he'd done. The youth worker told me it didn't seem like he was only sorry that he got caught. He seemed to genuinely be experiencing remorse over writing that in a note in the first place. But when the teacher, student, parents, and principal all met to consider whether or not he should be expelled, the teacher's primary case was not the bitch note. Her primary case, voiced through seething rage, was that, quote, he was a loser and he always will be a loser. The youth worker told me this story just after she'd met with the parents and the kid, and her comment really caught my attention. She said, "There's no such thing as a 12-year-old loser. They don't exist." I've been ruminating on this, and I have a collection of partially formed thoughts. First, I love, love, love the heart of a youth worker for whom that comment is her first response. Really, that comment alone revealed more to me about the character of that youth worker than anything else in the few days I'd spent consulting at her church. Number two, I don't think my heart is as pure as that youth worker. I've worked with 12-year-olds for a long time and I love them. I'm called to them. I sincerely hope I'll have some regular connection with 12-year-olds 30 years from now. Well, that'll put me at 92. So maybe I should say 20 years from now. But if I'm really honest, the reason her comment so caught my attention is because I've totally thought, and this is hard to admit, that some 12-year-olds were losers. I might not have been as blunt as that teacher who clearly needs to retire. I might not have ever screamed it in the presence of a kid's parents, but I'm quite sure I've thought some version of it, maybe with slightly less deplorable word than loser, but still the same. I might have thought impossible to reach or committed to being a troublemaker or beyond my ability to connect with. So, an interesting thing happened when the youth worker made her offhanded comment to me about there being no such thing as a 12-year-old loser. I felt convicted. And that's why it stuck with me. My own deficiency was revealed, even if only to me, and now to all of you. Third, in addition to the heart of the youth worker and the hope of a youth worker, I like the developmental accuracy of the youth worker's statement. A 12-year-old isn't a clean slate, to be sure, but being 12 implies almost a do over. Puberty, that fascinating God designed change expediter, conviction softener, worldview warper, possibility awakener, doubt provoker, identity reflector. It means that anything almost is possible. And if I've seen anything in my 43 years of working with young teens, it surely includes the reality that a 12-year-old making lousy choices might not even remotely end up being an adult who makes lousy choices. And the most go getter, non loser 12-year-old might just as easily end up making a lifetime of self destructive, lazy, or otherwise stupid choices. Now, the wording might be harsh, unfair, ungrace filled, and never to be used, but by 16 or 17, it's often more obvious what kind of choices a teenager might make for the rest of his or her life. In other words, if the youth worker had said there's no such thing as a 17-year-old loser, they don't exist, I doubt I'd still be thinking about it, even though I find the language offensive. I'd merely have chalked it up to her generally sweet, rosy perspective of teenagers. Yeah, but the 12-year-old loser? That's a mythical creature.
Hey folks, quick little announcement. I hope you know by now that the main thing the Youth Cartel does is we offer a year-long leadership development program for youth workers called the Youth Ministry Coaching Program. I really believe it's a best-in-class coaching program. We've had 800 people go through it over the last 15 years, and I just see regularly in front of my very eyes, see people's lives and ministries transformed. So check out theyouthcartel.com and go to the coaching tab. No, we're currently trying to fill a cohort in Springfield, Illinois, and one in central Pennsylvania, one in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and a level 2 cohort in northern Indiana. So hit me up if you have any questions about that.
The Youth Cartel Podcast Network.